T-minus 14 days to launch in La Liga, 20 days from the restart in the Premier League. Mark your calendars for the return of Spanish and English football. We'll go through some of the details coming up next. We'll also sort through the day's top transfer rumors, including a deal for Mauro Icardi that could be done by this weekend, and why Barcelona are back to square one in their pursuit of Lautaro Martinez. Plus, Watford captain Troy Deeney says whatever else happens this season, Liverpool's title will be overshadowed by the pandemic. We'll discuss that and more right now on Sports First. Good morning, good afternoon, whenever it is where you are. Thanks for sharing your time with us on Sports Burst. I'm Andres Cordero. We are live and welcome your comments and your questions via the Facebook chat. Our first touch today is in Spain, where we now have a date for the restart. Thursday, June 11th. It's just 2 weeks away. Not next Thursday, but the one after, when the league returns with the Andalusian derby between Sevilla and Betis. That's just one of the news bits that we've learned today after the meeting between all of the league office and all 42 clubs from the top two divisions. The man in the window next to me is Jamie Easton. He's our Spanish football correspondent. Jamie, always a pleasure to see you. We've learned some things, but we also have some questions, so we invited you to answer those questions. First off, just give us a rundown of the events from today's meeting.
Yeah, there was that meeting today between President Javier Tebas, president of La Liga, and the 42 professional clubs in Spain. And he has explained them basically what he wants, how he will organize all the trips for all the clubs throughout this situation of still pandemic COVID-19 in Spain. The clubs were quite worried to understand how would the procedures work, how could they get to the stadiums, who would pay for all that, who would do the reservations on the internet. So La Liga has explained that they take charge of everything extra needed, and the clubs are a little bit more confident right now. What's obvious is that at the moment, it is still not official, the first day of La Liga. We still have to wait for the official announcement, but everybody in Spain takes for granted that it will be June 11th with that Sevillian derby, and there will be football every single day. That's another point of discussion. After yesterday, we knew the La Liga and the Spanish FA understood themselves. That's not something that usually happens in Spain, but right now, this will happen for what is rest of the season. Football every day, every 72 hours is when football teams will play from June 11th until July 26th. And also, the Spanish FA will have to have a new meeting with La Liga later today. And then another meeting will have to take place between La Liga and the Spanish Players Association. So I believe that we won't have the exact calendar with the exact timings until probably Sunday or even next Monday.
Yeah, that's, I believe, as far as I understand, that Javier Tebas said that the calendar will be out, the schedule will be out Monday or Tuesday at the latest, which would suggest that once that calendar is out, there's your official start date. We'll see whether it is June 11th or not. But also some questions about the kickoff times, right? Because that's always been a point of contention in Spanish football. Usually, fans complain the kickoff times are too late. We've had games end at 1 o'clock in the morning in Spanish football. But it looks as though because this is going to extend into the hot summer months, the kickoff times will be different as well.
Obviously, the summer in Spain is very hot, especially in the south and the center of the peninsula, in Madrid, in Seville, in Malaga. Those are difficult places to play football in summer, to be honest, June, July. And we'll see what happens then. So the timetables will be weekends, 5:30 p.m. Spanish time, 7:30 p.m. Spanish time, and 9:30 or even 10 p.m. Spanish time. That means that some games could even finish at midnight local time. But because there won't be any fans at the stadiums, that is not a huge concern right now for everything organizing football. In weekdays, it will be different. Only 7:30 p.m. and 9:30 or 10 p.m. the football will start because people will still work as it's summer. So those are the timetables. It also has to still be confirmed by La Liga. And those timetables, it's important to understand who can play at 5:30 p.m. at weekends. Only those clubs who will be placed in cities in the center or in the south of Spain, never in the north of Spain.
And finally, Jamie, we have heard that games will be available on TV both with crowd noise from previous games at those given stadiums, and also without, with just the natural sound from the empty stadium. Just personally, where do you stand on the debate that we've been having all week? Fake crowd noise or no crowd noise?
To be honest, For me, personally, as a journalist, I would love to watch a game and hear everything happening down there. What the manager is shouting, what the players are shouting between them, what the rivals are telling the players, what the referee, what instructions is giving the players. So I would love to watch a game in those conditions. I understand that that is difficult to get used to because of what we normally see as football fans, but that could be something very interesting from my point of view.
Yeah, there's even been some talk that they're exploring ways to add digitally crowds to the stadiums. I think maybe that the sci-fi is getting a little bit away from us when we get to that point. But Jamie Easton, thanks as always for your insight. We'll catch up with you throughout the week for more on Spanish football. We'd like to welcome in now Ray Hudson and Kaylyn, two of our regular contributors. They'll be covering La Liga for you when it does get back underway. So Ray, Kay, welcome in. We have dates now, not just for La Liga on June 11th, tentatively, but also for the Premier League, which is said to be starting around June 17th. Let's focus on Spain first, because we are likely in for a marathon of Spanish football, as you heard from Jamie there, with games most, if not every single day from June 11th until July 19th. So Ray, we'll begin with you. Just your initial thoughts from today's news.
Well, it's like everything with this whole situation. There's pros and cons. We're all going to be welcoming back the best league in the world for me in La Liga Santander. And of course, the other big European games from England. We're enjoying them from Germany to some extent. And it's good. I mean, what's there not to be enthused about? But as far as the excitement, it's not there. It's not quite there. And Messi himself coming out this morning in a big interview stating it's going to be weird because the players need the fans to feed off. They do. And to hear Leo state that so categorically, that it's going to be strange and it's going to require extra mental focus for them playing the game, because what seems to become so natural when these professionals play on this level in front of these fanatical crowds, it adds inarguably a dimension that cannot be replaced, and how the game suffers is evident. But you know what? It's better than nothing. And it's a tough one for everybody. But let's have a go. Let's see how it is. And let the games begin and let the championships be decided. Although there'll be, no matter what, people will say there's going to be an asterisk. It'll be remembered as the season of the bizarro world. And that's just the way it is.
Kaylyn, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with Mo Sadi's comment, who says, "Congrats, Kay." Of course, he's congratulating you on the recent news that you are pregnant with your second child. So once again, congratulations for that. Also, we're getting plenty of praise here for Ray Hudson, the best color commentator. I happen to agree. We know that, by the way, Kaylyn, La Liga, the tentative date would be June 11th. But the idea of having games every single day means players will be, as was initially discussed, playing every 72 hours potentially. And you could have 5 substitutions, you could have 10 substitutions. That's still going to be very taxing over this period of time, is it not?
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine being a player being asked to go back into circumstances like this. I mean, Ray was cutting out for my headphones just a little bit, so sorry if I double dip of what he had said. But I mean, players going back into an atmosphere where they're used to the Bernabeu sold out, Camp Nou sold out. It's completely different. It's going to be a completely different atmosphere, but what will benefit is the larger teams, the teams with more money, the teams with more depth on the bench, because there's no way that you can have the same starting 11 if you're asked to play every 72 hours. These players are at risk of injury, these players are at risk of fatigue, and these players are at risk of long-term injury. And I'm talking ACLs, I'm talking muscle strains, muscle tears, broken bones, because of the amount that they are putting on their body. That's not easy to do. And you can be the best teams in the world and have the most amount of money around the club, but to recover properly from a 90-minute match, even if you're only playing 70 minutes, is extremely tough to do, both mental and physically. I'm so happy I'm not in these players' shoes, because it is going to be a tough task, not only mentally being able to play every 72 hours, mentally being able to play with no fans and no atmosphere. It's going to be extremely tough.
By the way, digging the Inter Miami black and pink jersey in the background there, just a little plug. Meanwhile, we know the Premier League is set to kick off June 17th, so that's 20 days from now. It'll be after a 100-day break, essentially, all totaled up. Up first, we know teams that have games in hand will go first. So that means Manchester City against Arsenal and Aston Villa against Sheffield United will get things back underway. There has seemed to be, to me, Ray, a little more outspokenness, a little more hesitancy from some Premier League players to get back underway than what we've seen maybe in La Liga and in the Bundesliga. And do you get the sense that maybe the fact that German football has been back now for 2 weeks has maybe accelerated the desire to get other leagues back underway, that Bundesliga have had the stage to themselves? Do you think that's factored in at all in terms of players being eager to get back out?
Unquestionably. I mean, Angela Merkel and the German government set the table for this rollout, and it's been handled almost impeccably. And I was reading that she should be up for the Ballon d'Or for the next award, which really, you know what, it's not too far out of reach. She's been fantastic, and the league has been, and I think it's been an inspiration. You see the recent voting from the English Premier League, it's almost unanimous now that because, I'm not saying because of, but through the success of the German rollout, that the English clubs are almost unanimous in saying, when there was some dissenters saying it's too quick, the players were saying we're moving too fast here, but now, especially the club chairman, they're all unanimous by the reports that I've been reading, that we're ready to roll out. We're taking steps forward, and the players, unquestionably though, there's still players that are hesitant, and that should be respected and observed. But right now, I think the Germans they are the bar. They have set the bar, and they are the bar, and the rest of them are going to try to follow.
Listen, we just lost Kaylyn there from where there she is. Comment here from Brendan Burns, who says, wonder what French Ligue 1 players...
Stuck in my throat.
It's all right, take a sip. Brendan Burns asking, wonder what French Ligue 1 players are thinking now that every other league is restarting. So even if they're not restarting, at least they have their dates to get back underway, whereas Ligue 1 followed in the footsteps of what Belgium and the Eredivisie did, which is pretty early on. They said, we're not playing soccer from now on. That's not the most important thing. Forget the leagues. We'll cancel them out and we'll award the title in the case of Ligue 1 to Paris Saint-Germain. But just your thoughts on the return of the Premier League, Kaylyn. Obviously, you and I would be more excited about La Liga, and that's a little bit closer as well. But it looks as though the Premier League will be back just a few days after that, and it'll feel at least like some semblance of normalcy for people like you and I who absolutely live and breathe football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely buzzing to see football back. I'll be completely honest, I don't watch the Bundesliga too often, but I've tuned in both weekends and to all the matches, because it's exciting just to see and hear live sports, the fake fans in there. But I was loving it. I mean, the last game and supporting fellow players like Alphonso Davies, the Canadian. But the EPL, there's been a lot of players that have been vocal about it, and I completely understand where they're coming from. They've been off for 2 or 3 months, so their mindset. I actually just interviewed Weston McKennie, and he said the biggest thing was trying to train his body, because his mindset, because it's technically their off season, their body starts to shut down because they're so used to having that month off of relaxation, being on a beach somewhere. So these EPL players are realistically having to reset their mindset, reset their body to basically be back in season, and they've had less of a preseason, so that just stems to more injuries. So a lot of them have been vocal. It's not safe to return this quick to playing games, and I completely get both sides of it. As a player, it'd be extremely tough to get have those 2-3 months off. Yes, they've been working out, but it's completely different than 90-minute fitness. So I'm happy. I'm absolutely delighted and buzzing that live sports is back. And I know that is being so selfish of me. But like you said, Dre, it's just nice to be able to have, to feel normal and have some normalcy in our lives and on our weekends. And to be able just to talk after games and, just have that same passion and love for the game. So I'm delighted, but I get the players concerned at the end of the day.
Yeah, let's move along to some of the day's top transfer stories, because Barcelona's pursuit of Lautaro Martinez has apparently come back to square one, Ray. We've heard for weeks reports naming Barca players that could be included in a deal as a make-weight. It now looks as though negotiations have broken down. Inter sporting director Piero Ausilio saying that Lautaro is not for sale. Inter don't want to sell him, so Barca would have to pay his $121 million release clause to sign him. At a time when we're talking about the financial impact that the coronavirus pandemic is going to have on football, Barcelona have been so adamant that he is their top transfer target. So do you see this happening at just straight up 120 cash for Lautaro Martinez because of that release clause? Is it still probable that he ends up in a Barcelona shirt?
No, I don't. No, I don't. This whole pandemic has thrown everything into the funny house of mirrors. What deals may have been able to be done with some real good players as well. You're talking the Rakitiches, the Coutinhos, the Arturs, Semedo. They were all in the mix for a possible deal. But right now, that amount of money given Barcelona's well-documented cash shortages as well has been well identified. They have serious financial concerns, not as much problems, but this is a player they're going to have to move sooner or later for. Messi wants him by all accounts. Messi knows him. He's played with him in the national team to great effect. And Leo knows this is a player of the highest caliber. Is he worth 100 million? I believe he'll be a bargain at 100 million when you see some of the crazy prices that some of these other players are getting nowadays, Kaylyn. I think this player is a player that deserves to be. But Inter Milan are doing the right thing. You want him, he's yours, but you've got to pay up.
100%.
Go ahead, Kaylyn. You can pick up off the back of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ray. Inter is in the driving for this one. I mean, they have a player that everyone wants. They know that Barcelona needs a player just in case, like we saw at the beginning of the season, Suarez went down, who can really fill that role. I mean, yes, you do have Griezmann on that team, but he's been very inconsistent there. Yes, he's playing out of position, but is he the caliber of Suarez in that number 9? No, I think Martinez is. And I think if Barcelona can and would be able to afford it, you have to sell players. And I agree with you right now because of this pandemic. There's just so many moving parts. There's just people that don't have the money to buy a player, maybe like a Griezmann, to get him off the salary bill, to then get in someone like a Martinez that realistically would fit in absolutely incredible at Barcelona. And again, you have a player of Messi that's been very vocal, like you just said, Ray, that wants someone of his caliber in that squad. They're comfortable playing together. And you know Messi, the more comfortable he is playing with players and the more that allows him to basically free up and allow him to play like Messi does. You can see that inconsistency with Griezmann because you can tell he doesn't feel comfortable with him on the pitch and he doesn't feel comfortable with him off the pitch. He's been vocal about that, whether we want to believe the reports or not. I know it's hearsay, but I think it's a great move. Do I think it's happening for that money right now? No. Do I think he's worth that money? Like Ray just said, it's a bargain at that price.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Inter essentially have nothing to lose here, right? If they were not interested in letting him go for less than 111 million euro, $120 million. That price is likely going to go up. Whatever happens with the financial effect of the pandemic crisis, the young player whose price will eventually go back up to around that area. And actually, it's worth noting that after July 15th, that buyout clause is increased significantly. So that 121 million that makes him quote unquote available is actually considered to be a bargain for a young striker. Another Inter striker, Mauro Icardi, expected to be a permanent PSG player by the end of this weekend. The Italian broadcaster Sport Media said, claiming that PSG and Inter have already reached an agreement on a $66 million transfer fee for Icardi. All that's missing is the announcement. Icardi's loan to Paris, Ray, included a purchase for about $77 million. PSG tried to bring that down. Apparently, they've succeeded to bring it down by about 10 million. But the two clubs have been negotiating for weeks. Paris trying to lower the price. Again, they seem to have done that. Is this good business for PSG, considering they're losing Cavani on a free transfer, adding Icardi to that mix of Neymar and Mbappe?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's good business for everybody. He seemed to be happy with the move on the loan situation. Sad to see Cavani moving on because he was one of my favourite players and a wonderful fit for Paris Saint-Germain. Tremendous player, Cavani. Tremendous player. And it'll be hard for Icardi to eclipse the brilliance of him. Is he capable of it? Slightly different player for me as well. Cavani had tools in his repertoire that I'm not so sure that Icardi has. But if you want a cleaner up front, if you want somebody that can be a real good hitman and a finisher, Icardi is tremendous. And for that price, it's a good deal. And I'm just sad to see Cavani leave, man. I mean, he was such a nice fit for Paris Saint-Germain, Kaylyn. And but hey, listen, Icardi is going to be the deal.
A couple of comments I'll get to here.
I was hoping we were going to see Cavani in this Inter Miami jersey behind me. I would have been absolutely delighted for that. But no, I think it's an absolutely incredible deal. I mean, Icardi, he's come there. He's proven that he can play with these players. The fans like him, both on and off the pitch. He's proven himself as a goal scorer there. And I think, too, if you look in the future, like obviously because COVID has hit, will Mbappe and Neymar move soon? Probably not because of the transfer fee behind them. I think that's the big thing with all these clubs. But you have to think, if they do get a move and these teams that do want Mbappe and Neymar, you need someone to be there that has been a proven goal scorer and can fill those holes potentially if those two players leave. I hope not, because I absolutely love seeing the three of them work their magic at PSG. It's been absolutely incredible to see. And you can kind of see the shift in players a little bit. Neymar starting to get on board and having like a really good attitude. You can see it. You can see it more so on his social media now. And I know it's social media, it's fake a lot of the time, but I love it.
As well, Kaylyn, you know, when you look at this PSG setup, the league, the domestic league, as we talked about, is all gone now, although there's movements taking place now for the sporting entities to reconsider. So knowing the French culture, they will reconsider it. But PSG looking very, very good in the Champions League as well. Yeah. So that part of it is still to be played out. But that would be another great string to their bow if they can pull off the Champions League.
And I'll tell you what, even if Cavani is arguably, and in my view, a better player than Icardi has been, obviously you're looking at a bigger sample size of his career, but he'll leave through the big door and all the fanfare on his own terms. There's a really decent argument here that Icardi may be a better fit, if not a better player, considering the other two pieces and how they didn't always necessarily see eye to eye with the likes of Neymar. Some of your comments here, Clayton Brown says, Haaland is a bargain at 111 million, not Lautaro, as an LOL for good measure. And Visam Tapo says there's too many options like Timo Werner. And I'm glad you brought up Timo Werner, Visam, because RB Leipzig striker Timo Werner has been repeatedly linked to Liverpool. But there's a new report as of Wednesday claiming that the Reds have lost interest because of the financial uncertainty moving forward. Werner's buyout clause is said to be around 60 million, which is significantly less than the money we've talked about for Lautaro. And now Manchester United, who just this week took out a $172 million loan, are said to be newest in the sweepstakes for Timo Werner. So do we see the German going to Old Trafford, Kaylyn?
I mean, I like this move better than the Liverpool move. And the only reason why I'm saying that is if you look at the front three at Liverpool, and I said this, I think it was Tuesday on Sports Burst, and me and Eric kind of went at it a little bit. Do you drop Firmino that has been so good with Salah and Mane up top? Interesting one, and obviously there's been a move in the works that, whether you believe it or not, that Mane might be leaving. Who knows? There's so much transfer rumor, but I do like this move to United. I think Gary Bailey would like this move to United. This player is so sought after, 24 years old, absolutely phenomenal player. Anyone would be lucky enough to have him. I could just see him playing more at United if the front three were to stay at Liverpool.
Ray, that means you get the last word here.
Yeah, I think Werner would be a good fit for Manchester United more so than Liverpool. But if Liverpool lose one of their front three, I think Werner would fit in. You got to remember the Klopp connection there is pivotal. Yeah. I would disagree all day with the guy that said 100 million for Haaland is a good price. He is still to convince me that he's in the pantheon of the world's greats. He may prove me wrong, but I'm still waiting. His last two games have showed it. He has been very, very short of what a lot of people are saying. But time will tell, and that's what football's about. It's all about opinions.
And with that opinion, we are fresh out of football for this edition of Sports Burst. Do join us later tonight. Before that, actually, do want to promo on Friday. We've got Austrian football live for you on beIN Sports Extra channel. Red Bull Salzburg against SC Austria in a cup match. And then, of course, join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for Sports Burst PM. For Kaylyn, Cal, and Ray Hudson, I'm Andres Cordero saying so long.